राष्ट्रपति की इस पढ़ाई इस क्लास में।
The role of a teacher after many years. I think I last taught in my class. In 1968, none of you were born at that time. Maybe your parents were not born. It was pretty long ago. I was a teacher in political science in a constituent college of Calcutta University. And from there, I gave up the teaching when I started. I joined politics a little earlier, but when I was elected to Parliament in 1969, then I thought that I cannot do justice to my students, because about half of the year and little more than that I shall have to keep myself engaged in Parliament. So I gave up teaching. But I felt bad, I'm telling you very frankly. Till today I have the urge of teaching, and sometimes in my speech in Parliament I try to, as if I'm taking a classroom, and I try to convince the members of Parliament who are hardcore politicians, seasoned activists, but still I try to do that. The subject which I will teach you, you know. First of all, I must like to compliment you and your teachers for the type of textbook you have. I have gone through it. During our days, of course I'm talking of many years ago, my student life from class 5 to 10 spanned over 1946 to 1952, because I passed the school final examination in 1952, and after that 4 years I spent in the up to the graduation stage. That was the system during our time in Calcutta University. And today you are in your social studies, history of independent India. You are acquiring first-hand knowledge from your teachers who are teaching you on this subject. Whenever you feel little bit that I am going too fast, please draw my attention, don't hesitate. Or when you feel that if you would ask some clarifications, best course would be you note down on that particular point, and when I have some interaction with you later on, then you can turn your copy and find out that what type of clarification you want. I will respond to that. So I wanted to tell you that we had one basic difference with yours and ours. Our syllabus was prepared under the overall control of the colonial government. For example, I had a history paper in my school final examination. 100 marks were there. But distribution of the marks were, 40 marks were given to British history, and 60 marks were given to Indian history. Indian history now divided in 3 parts, and each is a basic discipline: ancient Indian history, modern Indian history, and medieval Indian history. But all clubbed together, and only 60 marks were there. And British history, of course, covering the creation of the Britain States, United Kingdoms, then Tudor dynasties, Stuart dynasties, and current Hanover dynasties. These 3 major dynasties and others, details were there. The short point which I am making to you, I hope everybody is listening to me.
Yes, sir.
the short point which I am trying to make to you, that there has been a sea change. We had good history books, but that was the distribution. So, to be very frank, we knew not much about ourselves. Even after going through, I was a very average student. If not poor, if you can tell me poor also. I was not a very bright student. But I had to work very hard, because ours was an extremely poor, backward areas. I am giving you one figure from where you can understand the depth of backwardness. My district had a population of a little more than 1 million. But there were only 14 high schools where up to class 10 could be taught. Of these 14 high schools, 6 were located in district headquarters, district town, and subdivisional town, 2 subdivisional towns. And 8 were spread all over the districts, including my own school. So from my house it was uniform, peculiar uniform for ourselves. I used to tie a coarse towel around my waist, and in another coarse towel I wrapped up my pants, shirts and books and tied them on my head so that they are not spoiled by the water. Anyway, that was the... But one lesson, even at that time, I was a very naughty boy, and I used to give trouble to my mother almost endless. None of you are that naughty, I am sure. I was very naughty. Initially, for 3-4 years, I did not go to school. That is, of course, not high school, that was primary school. And I used to complain every day to my mother, oh, I cannot walk so much, 5 kilometers, no road. Then my mother used to ask me only one question, what would you do? What is your option? You must pass the school final. We are not rich enough to keep you in the hostel, and there was no hostel facilities also. But I promise you, she used to tell me, while laughing, that when you will go to the college, I will see that, I will tell your father to get you admitted in a college where you will have a nearest hostel. And in fact, she kept my promise. My intermediate 2 years and graduation 2 years, I stayed in a hostel just adjacent to my college, so that hardly I had to walk. The hostels had other difficulties. For instance, we used to read in the kerosene lamp. There was no electricity, even up to my graduation. Hardly there was any. So I got the admission, and then thereafter, that's the other stories we did it. Now we got independence in 1947, 15th August. Just few days back we celebrated our 9th Independence Day. And we had Republic Day on 26 January 1950. A question may come that how is it? In 1947 we got independence. Why did we wait for 3 years? Because 3 years' time was taken to draft the Constitution. Constitution was drafted by a Constituent Assembly, which was also elected under the British law, not Indian law. Constitution was drafted by a Constituent Assembly consisting of 300 members. Of those 300 members, they were elected in a very complicated manner. But those 300 members worked very hard. And if you have seen the Parliament Hall, there is a central hall. In that central hall, the members used to sit and draft the Constitution. First meeting of the Constituent Assembly took place on 9th December 1946. Good. Many of you know it. Very good. Then, on that day, the first job of the Constituent Assembly was to elect a president of the Constituent Assembly. And that meeting was presided over by a gentleman. His name is Mr. Sachidananda Singh. Good. And Dr. Rajendra Prasad was elected president. And they did two other jobs. Still independence was not there. It was 1946, 9th December. Independence came after 9 months. So they did not deliberate in details. Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru moved the objective resolution. And objective resolution was adopted. Purpose of the objective resolution was to outline what would be the objectives of the Constitution which we want to have. Objectives of the Constitution has been beautifully summed up in the preamble of the Constitution. I am starting from the preamble of the Constitution, and then I will switch over a little bit to history of our independence, and then what are the major events after the independence from 1947 till date. So Constitution of India starts, we the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic, sovereign democratic country. These two words, secular and socialist, these two words were added through an amendment in 1975 through the 44th Amendment of the Constitution. If you look at the text of the original Constitution, you will not find it. So these two words were added. And what else? To constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic, and to secure for its citizens justice, social, economic, and political, liberty of faith, expression, and belief, equality of status and opportunity, and thereafter they are qualifying, ensuring the dignity of the individual and unity, and thereafter another word was also added, unity and integrity of the. Do hereby adopt, enact, and give to ourselves in this Constituent Assembly on 24th November 1956. That is the preamble of the Constitution. And what is our objective? Justice, equality, liberty. And also the individual dignity, individual rights. If you look at the political history of these different countries of the world, you will find that this is a great achievement. In England, it is said that parliamentary function began from the days of Magna Carta, 1215. So England, which is considered as mother of parliament, there also major reforms took place over the years. Before 1924, British women did not have their voting right. Charter of Rights, various Charter of Rights that was introduced in America. Bill of Rights. In France, the revolution took place on the demand of equality, liberty, and fraternity. That was the slogan of the revolution. But in India, in the constitution itself, we introduced. Therefore, to my mind, if you ask me that what is independence, I will say that for the first time, through this constitution, we the Indian people had the right to make law for ourselves. British captured India in 1757, not whole of India, but between 1757 to 1770, major part of India was captured by the British colonial power through a mercantile company, East India Company. They first won the Battle of Plassey, 1757, which put them in control of a vast tract of whole of East India, Bengal, Bihar and Odisha. Thereafter, you will know, 1763, there was the third battle of Panipat. And in third battle of Panipat, Ahmed Shah Durrani, he defeated the Marathas, because Maratha was emerging as the central power. Sadashiv Rao, eldest son of Balaji Bajirao, Peshwa II, he was defeated in the third battle of Panipat. What was the consequence, historical consequence? Except the Sikhs, there was no formidable power to challenge the growing power of British through East India Company. That is the significance of the third battle of Panipat. Ahmed Shah Durrani did not establish his kingdom here. After plundering Delhi, he went back. But he destroyed the Indian power, and the Britishers took advantage of it, and for the next 190 years, 1757 to 1947, 190 years, they ruled this country. First 100 years, British colonial power through East India Company, and the first regulating act was passed by British Parliament, not by Indians. That is 1773, Lord North's Regulation Act. After that, Pitt's India Act, 1784. Series of acts by British Parliament. Even including the India's Independence Act, which was passed by House of Commons, Indian Independence Act, 1947. So Constitution gave me the opportunity, not me, whole people of India, that we the people of India, now we will make our laws. And we make the laws, first basic law is the Constitution. Now a question comes, they say, what is this? That we completed the job by 24th November 1949. And why did we wait for what? There is a little historical background for it. Deliberately, our national leaders decided to wait till 26 January because in 1930 December, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, as the then Congress president in Lahore Congress, declared that our objective of the national movement is to obtain full freedom, Purn Swaraj. And he defined very beautifully, what is that Purn Swaraj? Freedom from political slavery, freedom from economic bondage, freedom from cultural stagnation. And Mahatma Gandhi, he declared that every year, all over India, on 26 January, we will unfurl. Then it was National Congress's flag, tricolored. And under that flag, we will take a pledge that till the country is free from the British rule, we will carry on our struggle relentlessly. That is the significance of 26 January. Actual independence came after 26 January 1947 August. So it was decided that let us wait for few months. But please remember, certain provisions of the Constitution were implemented immediately. One such provision was provisions relating to citizenship, provisions relating to the oath to the President, Article 60, Article 5, and many other articles. But it was decided that the rest of the articles would be implemented from 26 January 1950. Now, what has been the major developments of all these years? First, we drafted our constitution. We adopted parliamentary form of government. First general election took place, it took little longer time. From October 1951 to February 1952. This long period was taken for conducting the first general election. First general election in 1952, there were many skeptics. Even one of the personal friend of Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, he was British Prime Minister Sir Anthony Eden. During the Second World War, he was British Foreign Minister. And after Churchill, in 1956, during the nationalization of Suez Canal, 54, he became the Prime Minister of England, Sir Anthony Eden. He was a personal friend of Nehru. Because Nehru and he were both the products of Trinity College of Cambridge University. They were contemporary. So Nehru had the habit of writing to his friends. He was a prolific writer. So they were on correspondence. And Anthony Eden wrote a long letter to him that, look, you are all along a dreamer, a visionary, impractical, unrealistic. So your dream of introducing a parliamentary system of government will be frustrated. You will not succeed. That was his view in 1948, 49, 50. But after 52, same Sir Anthony Eden made an observation on another occasion that Indian Constitution is the most magnificent Magna Carta of socio-economic transformation of a vast multitude of people in a peaceful manner. That is an important milestone. Shut your eyes and think around you, around India. All of them became more or less independent at the same time. India 47, what is called Myanmar, then it was called Burma, 48, Indonesia, Sri Lanka, then it was known as Ceylon. Pakistan was created on the same day. Where is parliamentary democracy? Even Sri Lanka, in 1978, they switched over from parliamentary system to presidential system. Indonesia adopted presidential system, and there was a long spell of military rule. Therefore, the establishment of multi-party parliamentary democratic system is another major event in the post-independent India. 2014, there was an election. More than 55 crores people actually cast their votes to elect 543 Lok Sabha members from Cape Comorin to Ladakh. The first general election in 1952, the total population was 360 million. Total voters were 17.5 crores. 36 crores population, 17.5 crores were the voters. Because at that time the voting age was 21. Later on, Rajiv Gandhi brought it down, and correctly so, to the age of 18. Many of you are not voters, but you will be soon. Therefore, the establishment of multi-party democratic system, parliamentary system, and functioning it over all these problems, backwardness, poverty, illiteracy, disease, but people accept it as a festival, and people make experiment. Various experiments they make by exercising their democratic right. Then another important milestone was, we were told that freedom is not merely political slavery, not mere the change of color of flag, not mere the change of the rulers from white-skinned district magistrate or district collector to brown-skinned or black-skinned district collectors, not like that. It was something more. It must attain freedom from political, economic bondage. How it could be achieved? At that time, there was a prevailing thought that state must intervene. Government must take initiative in the development. Again, as a young boy, when I had the problem of negotiating every day 5 plus 5, 10 kilometers, I thought independence will bring development, but what development I want? I want at least let there be a road. Then I can ask my mother to buy a bicycle for me so that I can go to school on bicycle. So to me, development was a road. Today, nobody thinks that road, they accept it is granted. If there be a pothole, they complain. It must be spacious, driving or running must be smooth. Electricity, it must today. Because we have laid the path of economic development. First we began through the planned economic development process. We have completed 12 5-year plans plus a number of annual plans. The annual plan means when you do not have adequate resources, poor country always will have resource problems. Therefore, then we have the annual plan. So between 5-year plans, from 1st April 1951 it began, and an organization was established by Pandit Nehru named Planning Commission. They used to draft the plan. Basic objective of plan was economists used to compute the resources available for a period of 5 years and how those resources will be utilized. They decided some parameters that these are required: education, health, food. When India became independent, total food production was 50 million tons, 50. We had to depend on imported food grains from America. Even America passed a law which is known as public law PL 240, where they used to give us food aid. So we had to depend heavily on import. Government decided that country must be self-sufficient in food production. You will be glad to know in 2012-13 the total grain production of India, wheat, rice and coarse grains taken together, are more than 265 million tons. So we have moved from 50 million tons to 265 million tons. Total steel production was less than 1 million tons in 1950. We established integrated steel plants. There were only 2 steel plants at private sector, TISCO and ISCO, Tata at Jamshedpur and ISCO, Indian Iron and Steel Company at Burnpur. And their combined production was about 1 million tons. And today, it is more than 87 million tons. Cement production was less than 3 million tons. And today it is more than 280 million tons. Even electricity generation, from 30 billion kilowatt, though we are having great shortage, acute shortage in electricity, but there had been phenomenal expansion. So the second issues were economic development in the post-independence. Thereafter, there were debates that whether the model which Nehru established is the only model. In 91, this debate was very sharp. I am explaining the history as I have seen it. Because I participated in parliamentary politics. In 1969, I was elected to Rajya Sabha first, and thereafter I continued to be members of Rajya Sabha. And 2004, 2009, I was elected twice to Lok Sabha. So I am not a great scholar. As I told, I am not a very bright student, average student, and average reader. But as I have seen how the things unfolded itself before my eyes, and I wondered at the marvel of Indian democracy. A village boy in 1946, wading waist deep water to reach his school, as I told you, with a strange uniform, wrapping one coat style at his waist and another tying on his head as a turban to protect his uniform, school dresses and books. Because of democracy, he could reach the Raishina hills. From flickering lamps in a village home in an obscure area to the center of Indian politics. Contribution of democracy. As it brought Abraham Lincoln. He's a great man. I'm not making any comparison. Don't make that mistake. He is one of the great personalities of the world. But democracy gives opportunity to common people to fulfill its aspiration. And in post-independence India, we have nurtured that democracy. Sometimes people complain, and rightly so, that many other countries have made much faster economic progress. We have not been able to do. And they find fault with the policies. May be true, may not be true. But fact is that our progress is less. But at the same time, you shall have to keep in mind, even today, If I spend 1 rupee on development, 93 paisa of that 1 rupee come from my own savings, from my own resources. Not on borrowed resources, not on contribution from others. Because India's rate of domestic savings is reasonably high. At one point of time it reached 37-38%. It is little less now, but again it is picking up. Yes, sometimes say that our GDP growth is not very high. We made changes. Continuously we went on making changes because whenever we found that the policy adjustment is needed, we did it to promote the interests of the people. And the interest of the people is what? That they must develop themselves as a full-fledged citizen, healthy, educated, skilled, carrying no baggage, looking forward with optimism, and with confidence attempting to share and occupy its rightful place in the comity of nations. Then we added another dimension to this developmental strategy. First we laid emphasis on public sector. That public sector, government alone will do something. Then we found out that no, it's not possible. We must unleash the energy, potential energy in the private sector. Economic liberalization process which was introduced by Dr. Mukherjee and Prime Minister P.V. Narasimha Rao in 1991. Still everybody is following that. Then also we recognized that not merely policy, how to effectively implement the policy. Job, limited way, not in a very wide way, we began National Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme, now named after Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme. Minimum 100-day job to a rural person if he or she claims. It is not that we have achieved something very great, but it has ensured the minimum wage. Currently it is, after adjusting with the prices, it is about 130 rupees per day. That means what is the impact of it? I am giving you a simple example. Now if a boy, a man and woman worked, they earn minimum 260 rupees on that day. Now if the price of 1 kg wheat or 1 kg rice is 25 rupees, earlier days I used to see people did not have that purchasing power. Long before your birth, and when I was very young, maybe about 5-6 years old, there was great famine of Bengal, 1941, 42, 43. 5 million people died of starvation. 5 million. It is known as famous Bengal famine. Not there was lack of food grains, but substantially because lack of purchasing power. People did not have capacity to buy 1 kg rice at 1 rupee at that point of time, because the daily wages were then, in today's term, 50 paisa, 40 paisa, 60 paisa. Labor was cheap. Simple law of demand and supply made them totally impoverished, destitute. So this is, I was talking of the new dimension. What is that new dimension? Entitlement. Entitlement backed by legal guarantee, legal enactment. Empowerment through entitlement, entitlement backed by legal guarantee. The fourth dimension of our Indian democracy and development of the post-independent scenario. We are making experiments. I was telling you, we are making experiments. Indian people are making experiments. They are not satisfied. They said yes. Assembly, Parliament, Lok Sabha, Vidhan Sabha, universal voting right, free and fair voting mechanism, independent election commission. But always they are asking, is that all? Can't we improve it better? Can't we achieve more? So the powerful instruments which are developing as offshoots of this thinking are the civil societies, NGOs, various movements. I will give you a contemporary recent movement which was led by Mr. Anna Hazare. It was in 2010-11. I was minister in the government of India. I went, I think, for ADB meeting at Hanoi, Vietnam. There a foreign television asked me that, Mr. Minister, in your country, a gentleman called Mr. Anna Hazare is launching an agitation demanding a particular law. He wants a particular law which he have drafted, he and his colleagues have drafted, John Lokpal Bill. How would you react to it? You are heading the 5 ministerial team who are negotiating with Mr. Anna Hazare. Mr. Anna Hazare nominated 5 persons. He himself was there, a retired judge of Karnataka High Court was there, Justice Santosh Hegde. 2 eminent lawyers, one was former law minister, Mr. Shanti Bhushan, and his son Prashant Bhushan were there. And the 5th person was Mr. Arvind Kejriwal, who is the chief minister of Delhi now. And they demanded that the John Lokpal Bill, which we have drafted, you enact it. So I said that I welcome it. And as leader of the group of ministers, I am negotiating with him and his team to find out a solution. Because we do believe people have the right. If the people feel that MPs are not doing their jobs, government are not doing their jobs, the law which is required, they cannot simply sit idle and they have no way to express their views. Through media, print media, electronic media, and a very powerful mechanism you have noticing. You yourselves are using it. I am not accustomed to it. I do not use very frequently the social media. But Twitter, Facebook, these are powerful instruments, mechanism of conveying opinion, carrying opinion, creating public opinion. All these are the offshoots and the outcome of proper, healthy, democratic development. And that is the contribution of Indian democratic system. The fifth point on which I want to emphasize, I'm sorry, I'm taking little longer time than I intended to have. If any one of you feel little bored, you are free to tell me that Mr. Mukherjee, you can stop it. I am no longer president or minister. I am just your Mukherjee sir. I do not know how do you call your teacher. We used to call them in a very peculiar way. Sometimes we used to tell his first name and then add the word sir. So you can, I'll be happy if you call me Mukherjee sir. So what I was going to tell you, that now our constitution has a beautiful document. Enormous flexibility is there. Major amendments have taken place. And various organs, three important organs, legislative, executive, and judicial. And fourth organ I am talking of, civil society, including media, NGOs, and powerful public opinion which are being created. So how to run this system smoothly? Change is constantly needed. Change is virtue of democracy. If some of you have read a beautiful poetry of Browning in his famous poem Patriot, a patriot, when he comes with enthusiasm, people support all the way roses for him. When he fails and taken to the gallows for his misdemeanor, he observed people were ridiculing him, no question of welcome, insulting him, hurling abuses towards him. And he spoke within himself, thus I came, thus I go. So that is essential part of democracy. But we shall have to keep the system moving on if we can. If we can perfectly maintain the balance. Indian civilizational core values. When you were born out of your parents, they taught you, they injected certain core values in you. Love, compassion, living together, sharing. When mother brings some good food, the advice she always gives, share between your brothers or sisters. That you learn from your, when you come under the teacher. And when the teacher teaches you, he confirms, particularly in these formative stages. This is very important. What you will learn in these classes, it will have its permanent impact on rest of your life. And therefore, a teacher gives himself to the students, and the job of a student is to draw from him as much as he can. When I shut that is my last story and last point, I will conclude with it, that if somebody asks me, who is your teacher, whom best teacher? I find perhaps my best teacher was my mother. Why? As I told you, I was a very naughty boy, almost unparalleled naughty boy, and he used to cause lot of trouble and sufferings for my mother. My father was a political activist, freedom fighter. His life was, as I saw, in the pre-independence days, between jail and party office. No house, no home. And at that time, after I was reasonably grown up, then my other sisters came. But at that time there was one elder sister and two elder brothers, and I was the fourth one. So every day I used to cause a lot of trouble for her, all sorts of mischiefs, doing all sorts of offensive, not doable things. And at night when I come, I will get a good deal of thrashing from her. But after that, she will curse me. Then she will fondle me, tell me that why do you do these things. Anyway, you tell me, what have you done after you left home in the early morning and when you have come back near sunset? What have you done? I had to tell her chronologically 1, 2, 3, 4, every event. And if there is any mistake, she will point out. Because she keeps an watch, a small village, and how far I can go, 1 kilometer, 2 kilometers. I used to go with the cowboys, with their cow herds, and whole day played. But the moment sun appears to set, I was mortally afraid of darkness, though I was a village boy. So I think that I must have the protection of my mother. I used to come. The story which I am telling you, the lesson is that she sharpened my memory by recollecting the events chronologically which I was involved, so that in that way I could develop my memory over the years. Now I shall have to leave some time for you to the questions. Just thank you very much, and if you have failed any board, I am sorry for it. Thank you. I really enjoyed my going back to my old days when a blackboard, duster, and in those days, now you write felt pen, our days it was chalk pencils. I used to do that. That was my arena, or a textbook. Shoot up some questions. Why feel you shy? Yes, get up. Microphone dijiye.
Sir, I love music, but my parents say you will not get a good job if you do not study. Sir, is this true?
Just please repeat it. I was a little unmindful.
Sir, I love music and poetry, but my parents say you will not get a good job if you do not study. Sir, is this true?
No, it is partly true, but it is not completely true in the sense that everyone, I believe, everyone tries its best. But sometimes there may be some deficiencies, and what is to be done, it is to be done that others should try to complement his efforts so that he can be achieved. In today's society, interdependence has increased substantially, and we shall have to help each other. And there also, I give emphasis on the role of the good teacher. I call it inspired teacher. The teacher does this job. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, girl.
Sir, may I know to whom you want to give the credit for what you are today? To whom you want to give the credit for what you are today?
To whom?
You want to give the credit for what you are today.
I must tell you that my mother is primarily responsible. Thereafter, my teachers. One of them still I remember today was an excellent orator. He was teacher in English, principal of my college. I had no interest in Shakespeare. But he was a good teacher. Please have your seat. Good teacher in Shakespeare, and Macbeth was in our days syllabus, there was two, one tragedy, one comedy of Shakespeare's were compulsory up to the graduation. So our syllabus was Julius Caesar, Tempest as a comedy and Julius Caesar as tragedy. And when he taught Julius Caesar, he actually played like Brutus or Antony or Caesar, and he created such a huge interest in me that thereafter, not only in the syllabus, I think in a year or two, I completed at least half of the Shakespearean works. So teachers, history teacher, my curiosity about contemporarity was created by my history teachers. So he is taking a class of, say, on Akbar. Then suddenly he will look at me and ask me, hello, who was the king of Spain at that time? Who was king or queen of England? Who was king or queen of France? So immediately we will start working on that. So this comparison, whatever subject it was taken it up, he will like to bring parallel and draw some inferences from there. Yes? One. These 5, I think it will be adequate.
As we know that our constitution is completed in 26 November 1949, but it fully comes in power 26 January 1950. In that between gap period, only 16 articles are taken from it. Which type of 16 articles taken to run the government in that gap period?
Just what is he? 49?
Yes, our constitution is completed in 26 November 1949. And which our constitution are come in power in 26 January 1950. Between that period, we were ruled, just have your seat. British government, they had total absolute control up to 1858. But when the first war of independence began, in 1857, they call it derogatively Sipai mutiny, but it was not mutiny. It was the armed revolution against the misdeeds of colonial power. They drained this country. Surely you have heard the name of Dadabhai Nauroji, who was first elected to House of Commons in, sometimes exact year I have forgotten, as a liberal member from Finsbury constituency. And in his speech of House of Commons, he showed how the wealth of India was drained off by the British government, exploited India to export the cloths produced in Manchester Mill. They destroyed Indian textile industry. Did not allow Indian textile industry to flourish, handicraft to flourish, agriculture to develop. It was converted as a consumer of the finished products and supplier of raw materials. So, when the revolt took place, gradually they started giving some leverage, some facilities to the Indian people through various laws, which is known as the Constitutional Reforms Act. 1905, it was Maudley Minto reforms. 1919, it was Montagu-Chelmsford reforms. 1935, it was Government of India Act. So before the adoption of the Constitution and after the independence, 1947, we got political freedom, but that freedom of action was operationalized by the laws made by the British. So Government of India Act was run because 1935 Act was never fully implemented in the central government. Central government, it was substantially 1919 Act, but it was little bit adjusted, and provinces were administered by the Government of India Act 1935. Last question, please.
Sir, as we are in teenage stage, we face many problems which comes in our path of success. So would you like to give some advice how can we overcome it? Sir, as we are in teenage stage, we face many problems which comes in our path of success. So would you like to give some advice how to overcome it?
No. We will have to, each problem we shall have to overcome it. It's not merely the question of the states here and there. Our basic problem is challenge of poverty. Our basic problem is resource constraints. Our basic problem, I am talking at the micro level, not at the macro level. And our basic problems that somehow or other there had been some sort of imbalances of the various organs of the government not in the designed and proper manner. So, if we can correct that, then we are in a process of adjusting and addressing the issues. But each and every problem will have to be addressed. I am sorry, they have already opened the door and I am to go, but I will take you. Thank you very much. Please have your seat. I would like to tell you that if some of you want to put further questions, my advice to you would be, please send it to me in writing. I think within 2 to 3 weeks, you will get a response from me.
Yes, sir.
Is it acceptable?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
अभी आप